Hey everybody, it's Justice for Comics. It's Sunday. Just thought I'd mention this article here on CBR. Joe Fatboy Quesada shuts down Disney is closing Marvel rumor. So yeah, I heard this a few days ago from a couple other channels. Bleeding Cool ran an article. You know, if you guys aren't familiar with Bleeding Cool, it's a completely trash website. If you go on there, the first thing that happens is you get like 5 or 6 pop-ups. If you have a Windows-based computer, it will almost shut it down. It'll basically wreck your computer. I have an Apple, so it doesn't quite do that, but it still creates havoc. So it's a piece of shit website, Bleeding Cool is. If you want comic book news, exclusives, things like that, use CBR. It's 50 times better. It's just a much better website. The editorial seems to be more balanced and non-biased. Bleeding Cool is complete SJW fodder. It's just trash. So my opinion is never go on Bleeding Cool's website. But sometimes they'll reference, CBR will reference a comment from somebody where it was on Bleeding Cool. So anytime I see a controversial comment or some stupid ass comment, usually it's because it's on Bleeding Cool. So I think this is pretty interesting. So Joe Quesada, he's been the head of Marvel for a while now. He's been in sort of the background. He's not been an active operator until very recently. Breeveport was running it for a little while, Alonzo. And then, of course, now you got CB Cebulski at the helm. So Quesada, during all this time, was sort of a figurehead. You know, he's a former artist that was put into a management style role. And basically, he tweeted out just the other day, March 1st. Must be a slow news day, ladies and gents. I give you the dumbest comics conspiracy of the week. And of course, he references the Bleeding Cool website article that they're going to, that supposedly Disney's going to shut down Marvel Comics. Absolutely ridiculous. No way Disney would do that. First of all, comic books in general, it is a fairly profitable line of business if you know what you're doing. Marvel, there's a lot of comic books that Marvel produces that are absolute losers. They don't sell enough to even cover costs of production. Titles like Captain Marvel, which has been rebooted, 9, 10 times now. Squirrel Girl, Miss Marvel, America, and of course, these are the titles that are SJW, female, really reverse racism roles in many cases. Just because you don't like white men it doesn't mean that you're not a racist. If you say anything bad against, if you say anything about any race, you're a racist. That's just the way it is. So I don't know. We're in this culture now where somebody says something about a white guy or fanboys that are white guys, we're just supposed to be like, oh, that's okay. It's a very racist thing. I don't know. It's like reverse racism these days. So this is my theory of what's going to happen. Marvel is headquartered in New York. I think most of the publishing company of Disney is in Burbank, California, so there is a possibility that Marvel could get moved to Burbank, and I don't know if it's going to be consolidated with the other line of Disney publishing, but the Marvel comic books is the source material for all these movies they're coming out with, right? So they're definitely not going to do away with it. They're definitely not going to stop producing Marvel Comics. What could happen is you could see a more profit and loss approach by Disney, where they may go in and sit down with some analysts, and they'll basically go through what's selling and what's not selling. And I'm sure it won't take, these guys are smart. They'll figure out real quick that, okay, the stuff that's not selling, there's a common pattern here, a common thread. The SJW politics is definitely one of the reasons that most of the books that don't sell, that's the reason. I think that will be glaringly obvious. So what you could see happen is there could be just some change coming, and I think it would be great change for Marvel if you had somebody come in there and really analyze, what's selling on a regular basis and what's not. And then the other thing that's going to be interesting is, comic books is a direct market, right? It's most people that buy comic books today buy them through a comic book shop, buy them through a website. It all goes through Diamond distributors. Could Disney decide we want to distribute our own comic books and, formulate their own distribution to compete with Diamond? That's a possibility. There would be, a pretty good investment to do that. I don't know if they'll do that or not, but that's definitely one thing that could happen is Marvel could decide it wants to directly compete with Diamond on distribution. What I hope happens is they do a better assessment of what is selling and what's not, and just trim down the titles. I mean, there's just too many Marvel comics being produced, and there's a lot of them that just no one buys. So I think if they kind of narrowed down the focus, I think overall it would be much better for the comic book industry, much better for Disney. Disney doesn't like to lose money in any particular business. So, it's a very well-ran company, and they don't like segments of their business to lose money. So, I don't know if that's why the article was produced. There's, there could be rumors in the industry that there's change coming. But obviously the rumor that Marvel Comics is going to be completely dissolved by Disney is nonsense. There's no way Disney would do that. But it would be interesting to see. A lot of Disney stuff is produced, and I could foresee where you got all these retail Disney stores. Maybe they start to sell comic books in those stores. Maybe they put them in Walmarts like DC is doing. So you could see more direct-to-retail style selling of comic books versus, just having everything be direct through Diamond. So that's something that, remains to be seen. We'll see what happens. But it does seem like that's the angle that could be pursued here. It's just a rumor right now, but Marvel Comics isn't going anywhere, in my opinion. It's got a rich history. It still has the best characters of any comic book publishing company. Sorry, DC. DC outsells Marvel. It has for several years now in general, because DC has focused on characters, great artists, great writing. They've gotten away from that SJW type of style. Marvel is still sort of embracing that, and I think slowly you'll see that turn. I think Marvel's going to get away from that, and Disney's going to be the reason. They're going to analyze that, and they're going to shut down certain titles, I think. So yeah, we'll have to see. I do know that for the last 3 years, Marvel has been losing money, or less sales, I guess, year over year for the last 3 years. That is kind of alarming considering the economy's never been better. Unemployment is the lowest it's been in 55 years. There's a lot of wealth being created right now, or there's just a lot of money flowing around. You can always tell. You go look at companies that sell very high-end products, and you just analyze how they're doing. Like, for instance, I live here in Florida. There's a lot of people that are into to the beach and boating and all that. And so there's a company called Yeti that produces coolers. I mean, these are high-end coolers, right? These are $400 coolers when you can go buy an Igloo for $75 for the same size, or or under, and a Yeti cooler's $400. So that's an example of a company that is selling a very premium product and it's doing extremely well. That never happens if the economy is doing poorly. If the economy goes into a recession, a company like Yeti is going to get absolutely crushed because that company is selling products that are absolute disposable income. People, it's not a necessity at all. It's a pure, luxury buy is buying a Yeti cooler. But here in Florida, that's kind of it's almost like a status symbol. It's kind of like, for guys, having a Yeti cooler is kind of like a woman with a Louis Vuitton bag. It's interesting, the psychosis of that, but it's kind of what it is. I know some buddies that fish, and they're always talking about their Yeti cooler, and it's very similar to a woman kind of showing off their Louis Vuitton bag. It's a premium product. People know it's expensive just by looking at it. They can tell. So that's kind of what my thoughts are on that. The comic book industry overall, I think, is healthy. Marvel definitely could improve in many areas. If I were running Marvel tomorrow, I would shut down probably a third of their titles. At least 30% of their books that are coming out, I would completely cancel, shut them down. Doesn't mean I would abandon the characters. I would have the characters maybe appear, in different titles as a supporting character. Some characters are just not, they're not strong enough to hold their own title. Just the way it is. I mean, Squirrel Girl, maybe she can pop into a comic book title here and there, but there's not enough people that really care that's going to support that comic book. Same thing, in my opinion, with Captain Marvel. I just don't think there's enough people that are into that character for that character to maintain their own title. Unless you maybe get some really good writer in there. You take Donny Cates and you have him start writing Captain Marvel, then yeah, I think you could get a really good following there. But short of that happening, that's what I would do if I was running Marvel right now. I would close down any title that's not selling at least 30, 40, 50,000 copies a month. If it's not selling at least that much, I would close it down. I'd cancel it. And then refocus your assets and your efforts into titles that are selling well, and pay the artists better, get better artists, get better writing, just make a better quality product. And I think Marvel could thrive like never before if they go that route. So, I'd love for an executive to click on my channel, a Disney executive, and go, gee, that guy makes a lot of sense. But that would be my dream, is if Marvel could really just trim down their titles, focus way more on quality writing, quality artists, and just get rid of stuff that's just not selling and no one cares about. So that's kind of what I had. I thought this was a good article to look at on CBR. And let me know what you guys think. I know this is a topic that will generate a lot of heated opinions, maybe. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel, hit the bell for notifications, and please leave a comment. Like to hear what you guys have to say about this and your opinions. All right, thanks.